path of devotion. Somebody can explain this statement?
You cannot analytically know how the mercy flows. It's only by the mercy. You cannot mentally judge.
Okay, good point. Yes, well, let's go.
My understanding is that the Bhagavad book is not different than the devotee, isn't it?
Yes.
If you're serving the book, then it means you're serving the devotee, isn't it? So it's not different.
Okay, fine.
That's my understanding.
Okay, good. Thank you. Somebody else.
Sometimes when we are seeing some person Bhagavad, we are seeing through our material vision. Some defects like, not so looking handsome or not so. Sometimes some services he gives, so we feel, he's insufficient. So that blocks, but how much they are having devotion for Lord, we are serving and we get the same. As in the previous verse also it was said that we get the quality.
Okay, good. Very good points. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes. So the important point is all these transcendental subject matters cannot be understood by mundane logic. As the Mahabharata says, Achantya kalu ye bhava tarkena na yojayet. So what is achintya, inconceivable, cannot be understood by tarka. Tarka means logic, argument, one cannot understand. So, as Prabhupada is saying here, human reason fails to understand how by serving the devotee Bhagavat or the book Bhagavat, one gets gradual promotion on the path of devotion. So, it's not something which we can understand by our mental speculation or reasoning. How this spiritual progress is taking place by serving a book Bhagavat or a person Bhagavat. Apparently, it appears to be something mundane. Okay, I read this book. It's a book. How do I make spiritual progress? By reading this book. It's just black and white. How do I make progress? By reading this book. Now I know you know the answer, but the point is somebody may think like that. Or there is some devotee. There is some devotee. He's also like me.
Yes.
Why do you say by serving him I make spiritual progress? If you say by serving the Lord you'll make spiritual progress, that makes sense, isn't it? That makes sense. But by serving this person, this devotee, he has a body like me, so many defects, and he makes so many mistakes, and why should I serve? Why should I serve? I will go to Radha Kund and chant 64 rounds. That makes sense. Right. That makes sense. Why should I stay over here and serve some devotee, some authority here who's all the time behind my back telling do this and do that and so much difficulty? Oh, this doesn't make sense.
Thank you. Now we'll go to the Gaudiya Math.
He's more dear to me.
So that's usually how one tends to think.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons why people leave ISKCON and think, we'll do something on our own. That will be more potent. Total misconception, total illusion, total illusion. And that's what we have been reading in the purport to the 16th verse as well as this verse. And the service to the servants is more potent than service to Bhagavan himself. And Krishna himself demonstrated that. When?
Bathing, Sudama.
Sudama, yes, Sudama.
Arjun.
Arjun himself, yes. So many others. Krishna demonstrated that. And so therefore, that's why Prabhupada is saying human reason fails to understand. Not so easy to understand. But we have faith because this is what Krishna has shown. This is what the Acharyas have shown. That this is the way to progress on the spiritual path. Even though logically we may not understand, but this is the way. Srila Prabhupada very often quoted this, Narottam Das Thakur. What's that? Charya Vaishnava Seva Nistar Pai Chakeba. Who has got deliverance from this material world by giving up the service to the Vaishnava? No one. That's the Siddhanta. Whether we understand it logically or not, that's the Siddhanta. And therefore Srila Prabhupada laid great emphasis on remaining within ISKCON and serving the devotees within ISKCON. As known as Bhakti Charuswami Maharaj would often quote the instruction which he received from Srila Prabhupada, that is, never leave ISKCON. And Srila Prabhupada has written that so emphatically in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is one of the amazing purports where Prabhupada has given a direct, definitive instruction, never leave ISKCON. This is Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, 19th chapter, text number 157, if I'm not mistaken. Prabhupada has written, even if one thinks, it's not a fact, but even if one thinks there are only pseudo-devotees or non-devotees within the society, still one must stick to the society. Even if there are pseudo-devotees or non-devotees, still, he says, stick to the society. Is my reference correct?
Even if one thing.
No, is the reference correct, the number?
Yes.
Good. So you can read the rest of the purports, but that's the emphasis. And if you want one more reference, this is 4th canto, 9th chapter, verse number 11, where Srila Prabhupada said, anyone who thinks he can practice Krishna consciousness outside this society, which society?
This society.
International Society for Krishna Consciousness, outside this society, is simply living in a hallucination. It is impossible. What? It is impossible. That is for us, those who are members of this society.
What reference?
4, 9, 11.
9, 11.
So therefore, our business is to stay within the society and please the Vaishnavas.
I love this question. 4:11, 19:157.
And then he gives the story of Narad Muni, and then he says, you read from here. Who's doing? Somebody can read. So, after that story, he says, these are the miraculous effects of the association of the Bhagavatas. Read from there.
To understand these effects particularly, it should be noted that by such sincere association of the Bhagavatas, one is sure to receive transcendental knowledge very easily, with the result that he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. The more progress is made in devotional service under the guidance of the Bhagavatas, the more one becomes fixed in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The messages of the book Bhagavata therefore have to be received from the devotee Bhagavata, and the combination of these two Bhagavatas will help the devotee,
Neophyte.
devotee, to make progress on and on.
Okay, so all these are amazing statements that Srila Prabhupada has given. We can contemplate on them and try to apply them for the rest of our life. So, and to understand these effects practically, it should be noted that by such sincere association, you see how many places Prabhupada uses the word sincere.
Sincere.
So many places. By such sincere association of the Bhagavatas, one is sure to receive transcendental knowledge very easily. So when sincerely one associates, and association means just hanging around with them, correct?
Yes.
So what does association mean?
Execution.
To serve them. So by such sincere association of the Bhagavatas, then one is sure to receive, just see the confidence with which Prabhupada is writing, one is sure to receive transcendental knowledge from them. It's not bookish knowledge, it is what? Transcendental knowledge. There's a spiritual knowledge, realized knowledge. That is what one gets by that association. Very easily, very easily. And what is the result of that? One becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki, one comes to the Nishta platform. And the more progress is made in devotional service under the guidance of the Bhagavatas, under the guidance of the Bhagavatas, so much progress is made. So, and then the more progress is made, then the more one becomes fixed in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Therefore, the messages have to be received from the devotee Bhagavat, and the combination of these two Bhagavatas, the combination is required. Not that I will simply read the books and become a big scholar. It doesn't work that way. No. Not that I will read all the books, this book, that book. So many books now available in the market. Why market in the mobile? How many hundreds of books are there in the mobile? We don't know. But what's the dearth of information? So easy to get information. There's no dearth of information. But that doesn't result in transcendental knowledge. If you want transcendental realized knowledge, what is required is the combination of these two Bhagavatas. That is what is required. And so many of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they may not be big scholars, they may not have read so many books, but the realizations that they received and the progress that they made was incredible, because they agreed to serve the person Bhagavat. Yes, true.
Yeah, I would say even more important than to serve the Bhagavat is the sincerity or the goal behind.
Yes.
Because we have seen through the 50 years of ISKCON that many people have done tremendous amount of services, but many of them are also there.
And that service
Will never be full.
is 2 points. One point is, whatever service done, the benefit is always there. Eternally that benefit is there. To just give an example, you know the story of Sudama Maharaj? No. How many know the story of Sudama Maharaj?
I mean, I know some stories.
Okay. We want the essential story. Early days of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada asked in an assembly of devotees once, who would like to go to Japan and preach? Nobody was ready. Japan, difficult place, mechanistic people with mechanistic machines. So, difficult place. Prabhupada threw a bait and he said, anyone who goes to Japan, I promise I will personally take him back home, back to Godhead. So this young Sudama Prabhu at that time raised his hands and he went. He went alone. He went to Japan. That's how preaching in Japan began and took good shape. Now we have centers in Japan. Later, when especially, of course, even when Srila Prabhupada was present, there were problems, difficulties. And after Srila Prabhupada left this world, he left. Totally out of ISKCON. Totally out. Many years later, he had terminal cancer. And at that time, he came back to the Association of Devotees in Los Angeles. The night before he left, his mother, she was not even a devotee, his mother got a dream that Srila Prabhupada is personally coming to take her son back to the spiritual world. And the next day, he left. That is the result of the service to the Mahabhagavad. Srila Prabhupada made the promise, and he fulfilled that promise. So, those are very special souls. Very special souls. Even though they may go off, they come back. Or Prabhupada somehow will take them back. Those are highly inconceivable things. And just to substantiate this, I'll tell you one more. You may have heard of Saurabh Prabhu, who was the architect of first Juhu temple, then he became Survi Maharaj. Okay, so he's well known as Survi Maharaj. His first name was Saurabh. So he was the architect for Vrindavan temple, first Juhu, then Vrindavan, to some extent Mayapur. But then he was, especially Juhu and Vrindavan, he was involved so much and so many challenges, so many difficulties. Later on, he started some business and then he got swayed away. Prabhupada is writing here, wealth, one of the great impediments. Got swayed away, he left. In 2014, almost he was out of ISKCON for about 25 years. 2014, if my memory goes right. Every year in Los Angeles they have a Prabhupada festival. That particular year they were sort of Prabhupada reunion festival, something like that. And they were calling all previous Prabhupada disciples here or there who left. So they called this Survi Maharaj. Survi Prabhu. He came. You can hear the recording. It's there. He tells his entire life, how he met Srila Prabhupada, so many pastimes. 2015 was the 40th anniversary of Krishna Balram Temple. They invited him there, he came there. And there also he spoke many Prabhupada pastimes. And then he was in Vrindavan. 2016, in Vrindavan, right in Vrindavan, he left. These are just a sample. That's service to Mahabhagavad, how powerful it is. So, cannot be underestimated. And that was one point. The second point, which we would also like to make, which is definitely more relevant in our context. Those are direct Srila Prabhupada's disciples. They definitely have special mercy because they helped Srila Prabhupada at a time when he needed most. So they are recipients of special mercy. As far as we are concerned now, then we have to remember that that service has to be continuous, steady, ongoing. That's what is very much required for us. Kripa Siddhas, special cases, they are few. But in most cases, as Rupa Goswami says, Anushilanam. Anu means continuous, following the predecessor acharyas. That's what's required for us. Not that we perform devotional service for a few years and then, okay, Prabhupada will take us. No. As far as we are concerned, in general, the Siddhanta of the Shastra applies in general. Some cases are special. Hope that balances. Hare Krishna. Okay, now if we don't go a little fast, we'll go out of balance here. Okay, so we're going on to the next verse. So, he's talking about the results of hearing. So one comes to the platform of Nishtha Bhakti, then what happens? Tata rajastamo bhava kamalo madayashe cheta ete anaviddham sthitam sattve prasidati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and he becomes completely happy. Okay, we'll just read a few important statements here. A living being in his normal constitutional position is fully satisfied in spiritual bliss. That is the constitutional position of the living entity, to be in spiritual bliss. That's called the Brahmabhuta or the Atmanandi, or the state of self-satisfaction. It's not like the satisfaction of the inactive fool. So you may have heard that. Two people are very blissful in this world, very blissful. Who?
The complete idiot and the self-realized soul.
Yes, but there's a difference of earth and sky between the happiness of the two. That's what Prabhupada is saying. The inactive fool is in the state of foolish ignorance, where the self-satisfied Atmanandi is transcendental to the material state of existence. Okay. And the next paragraph. The effect of devotional service becomes manifest by complete elimination of these effects of passion and ignorance. The devotee is fixed at once in the mode of goodness, and he makes further progress to rise to the position of Vasudeva with the state of unmixed sattva, Shuddha sattva. So this verse is referring to which stage? On the basis of just this statement, position of Vasudeva, or the state of unmixed sattva, Shuddha sattva. Bhava, yes. So this is Bhava, Shuddha sattva begins to enter on the stage of Bhava. Only in the Shuddha sattva state can one always see Krishna eye to eye. by dint of pure affection for the Lord.
But Swamiji, this stage will become Krishna Darshan. That
Krishna Darshan is coming next.
Okay. Okay. But it is said, right? If you can see face to
Okay. Right. So anyway, this is all the beginning of that. Okay, 20. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogatah bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangyasya jayate. Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlightened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Okay, so it's established in unalloyed goodness. Bhagavad Bhakti Yogataha. So, this is the Mukta stage. He's on the liberated platform. Okay. And then 21. Vidyate hridaya grantes chityante sarva samshaya shriyante chasya karmani drishta eva manishvare. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. Yes, here, what is the meaning of self as master? Here the word self indicates the super self. It does not indicate the self as Atma. But here, Vidyate Hridaya Granthi, so all the Hridaya Granthi are cut, Chityanti, Sarva Samshaya. So everything is, all the doubts are cleared, all the karmas are destroyed, and Drishta, Evatmanishwari. So one has a clear realization that I am Krishna Das. That's our ultimate goal, to come to that platform of realization. All what we are doing is to come to that realization of that simple fact. Jive Swarupa, Krishna Nityada. Even a new devotee recites the verse. But all our practices in devotional service are to come to that realization that I am Krishna Das. So simple, isn't it? So simple. I am Krishna Das. Yet so difficult. That's the lifetimes and the lifetimes of conditioning. That's the thing. Prabhupada writes very beautifully here, as soon as the Krishna sun is arisen within one's heart, the darkness of materialistic speculations about the absolute truth and the living beings is at once cleared off. And in the presence of the sun, the darkness cannot stand, and the relative truths that were hidden within the dense darkness of ignorance become clearly manifested with the mercy of Krishna, who is residing in everyone's heart as the Super Soul. So beautiful. And then another important statement. Perfect knowledge is called parampara or deductive knowledge, coming down from the authority to the submissive oral receiver, who is bona fide by service and surrender. How one becomes bona fide? How? By service and surrender. One becomes a bona fide recipient of the transcendental knowledge. One cannot challenge the authority of the Supreme and know Him also at the same time. He reserves the right of not being exposed to such a challenging spirit of an insignificant spark of the whole, a spark subjected to the control of illusory energy. The devotees are submissive, and therefore the transcendental knowledge descends from the personality of God to Brahma, and from Brahma to his sons and disciples in succession. So we want the knowledge to descend, then what is required? Submissiveness. That's what is required. And then once one gets the knowledge, then what